like you're. So the camera is that device over there. That device, that other device. That device over there is that. So. Well, we don't have to use that.
Trying to get people.
So we're not in meeting room right now, so we're gonna, it's gonna be a little different. I can set up another camera. You wanna do that? No. No. Are you happy with this camera shot? Well, where are they? Okay, then we face the camera towards that. They're gonna be right here? Where they?
Both sides.
Okay. Well, either
All
way,
along this road?
either with
All
any
along.
kind of camera, you're gonna have to adjust that. So right now it's,
But if it was,
okay, so camera's gonna move.
yeah, that's, but. Is there a?
Check. Hello, check. Hello, check. Check. Hello?
Just got to see.
What?
Just got to see. When you said check.
Check.
I'm saying it because, and I'm not putting pressure on you, I'm just saying,
We can set up another camera if you want. But you're gonna have to,
we gotta get city managers gonna be first. I don't get that.
okay, let's use that speaker again. Well, let me go get another camera. So. The owl is gonna work. I understand you want. All right, first of all, I'm gonna go over the meeting, make sure. No one start to do this through. Laptop. Hold on.
True.
Check. Hello, check. This is live right now, isn't it? All right, so. I'm gonna do the test in my mind, but. I have people right here speaking. Hello, check test. It's gonna pick them up right away. Because the device is sensing my presence, you know? So is that a problem? Do you think that,
Yeah.
well, it's.
Is that the only thing we could do?
Well, here's the thing, I'm running out of cables to reach the computer, and then unless you just, like, we need that microphone and speaker.
Okay, well, I need to tell them, I'll tell them that when they come in,
Well,
the camera's gonna roll. Cause they're not used to that. Like, I don't know, see that little,
All right.
that top?
let me see what I can do.
Oh, no, no,
No, like, it is what it is, they don't like it, they don't like it.
no, what I'm saying is, this, hold on. That top picture is what I'm looking for.
Okay, well, we can try and see if the owl will let us,
But
Right.
it follows people around.
let's see what I can do to this app that I have. Well, do what I gotta do to make people happy, but gotta draw the line somewhere. Because sometimes resources are limited, and now what on with the crime.
It's kind of frustrating. I could read that.
Well, this isn't set up for a team, for virtual stuff, we have to set it up on, with, you know.
But see. You're.
What you get in 4001, for example, is nothing like this room, you did.
I get it. But the computer is not. And I can't read it.
Well, that's not a, no, I mean, you could set that up if you want, but that's not what I understood you wanted to do.
No, you said the computer's not working, so I had to go.
Oh, it wasn't working, then, yeah, but that screen's working, the computer's the issue. Is that what you're confused about? All right. So I got rid of the panel strip with this handy dandy app. Is that better?
Yeah, they'll see on YouTube. Camera will follow them, that's fine.
Well, I wouldn't want the camera to follow me. I would feel like a rock star, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, so this is better because I think this is better. Because I don't like that either. I agree. The panel, I think it's silly looking, but you like this better? Because that's what it would do in a Teams room.
Oh, no, I'm used to it.
Well, yeah, you do. You do that one 4001. Well, the Teams technology.
I was positive. Those positive.
Hello, Chet. 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 Go for it, Bernard. Take it away.
So what about top? Is it gonna come over here? Are you gonna pick me up? Is that the microphone?
Keep going. Yeah.
Keep going, keep talking. See if it'll come over. Because it's gonna go back and forth all day. There are gonna be those that talk longer than others, but it's gonna be bouncing back and forth.
Hello, Chet. Hello, Chet. Hello, Chet. Hello, Chet. Just gotta, yeah, I don't think you're being loud enough, Bernard, perhaps. I'm not sure.
Well, I can't speak it enough.
Well, maybe the people who really should be doing it. Well, it's picking me up, man. Check, hello, check, hello, check. Hello, check, hello, check, hello, check. All right, Bernard, go ahead, say hello, hello, check,
Yeah.
check, 1, 2, 3.
Hello, check. Loud, as loud as I can go. I'm screaming. Move. Show that I'm here. Not doing it. So what's the deal?
Well, man, my,
I don't know.
I'll scoot over a little bit. What's going on?
The screen's
No.
disconnected.
Okay. So do you think that people are gonna be,
I know.
all right, so. Check. Hello, check. Hello, check, test 1, 2, 3, hello, check, test 1, 2, 3. Hello, check, test 1, 2, 3, hello, check, test 1, 2, 3. Hello, check, 1, 2, 3, test 1, 2, 3. Okay. See if we're getting deep. We're not at, so. Hello, check. Hello, check. Hello, check. Hello, check.
They're not gonna be talking that loud. They know that. They're not.
Okay, well,
Could say, speak louder, but they're not gonna. It's reality.
sometimes we gotta meet technology where it is, man.
Yeah, but you can't make. What they're gonna do is they're not gonna do it. They're gonna go back there to the song, boys like me. And it's gonna be down.
Check.
It's a-
Well, it's not you, it's the technology.
They don't give a shit, they're bosses. Look, it's sitting there.
Do what?
You know,
Think so, but, you know, it's what it is, so I'm gonna join.
so
What's that?
it's on me.
Doesn't look like it, man.
Says me.
Or the live stream.
Okay, good morning. My name is Roxanne Stevens. I'm the acting Chief Labor Relations Officer, and I am the designated lead negotiator for the City of Austin. We have turned on our live stream, and I think we have confirmed that it is working and it is being recorded. And just a couple of housekeeping issues for today's session. Number one, thank you all for being here, taking the time to be here and talking to us about this. Just a couple of housekeeping rules for the technology in this room. Anybody who's speaking, in order for it to be recorded and to be heard, you're gonna have to pass around the microphone. And, I will accept friendly reminders because, I may forget. And please don't be offended if somebody reminds you to get on the microphone. We just want to make sure that we hear you clearly and understand everything that's being said from everybody. Secondly, we have, camera right here, and it's not a traditional camera where it's just set, it will follow whoever is talking. So when you're talking, the camera will be focused on you, and I think that's how it's going to be live streamed. So just a little bit of housekeeping. If there's any questions on technology or just anything going on throughout the session, feel free to ask us so that we can, number one, make sure everyone is comfortable, make sure everyone has access to the resources that we need in order to share our presentations or documents or anything like that. And if there are any questions, we want to make sure that that you understand us and that we understand you. So if we have clarifications, we will definitely do that. We have a sign-in sheet. I think everybody has signed in. If you haven't, just make sure to sign in. It'll just represent who is here at the public session today. And give me a moment. I'm going to go ahead and share a presentation we have. Are there any questions before we move forward? Okay. Now I just need to find. I believe it's showing. Okay, it won't let me show the full presentation on there, but I will try to maximize it. Today there's two items that we're going to be discussing in today's public session, and it will be the 2025 reopener, the implementation of the 2 additional utility days, and we will also be talking about and initiating the new bargaining session for the new contract under Chapter 174. So we're doing 2 things today.
Send that to them since we can't enlarge it, see it.
Oh, yeah, let me go ahead and do that. Yeah, I meant to do that. And I'll give you time, I'm gonna send it to Christine and Jeremy and Ron, and then I'll give you some time to send it to everybody. I'm gonna, yeah, I send it, I'm gonna, it's the display. It's showing on mine, but not up there. Okay, I have emailed them to Christine, Jeremy, Ron, and Bob. And then I'll allow time for it to go through the internet, arrive at your place, and for you to share with your team. At the same time, I'm gonna try and work on the display. Does everyone receive it?
I don't, but that's okay.
Did it send it to the right email, Ron?
It goes to a server. Yeah.
Who provided?
I gave him the rondeboard@me.com. It seems coming fast. The one just my name, it goes down to a server in Ukraine somewhere. Eventually gets back to me. I have some Bitcoin. It'll come eventually. Go ahead.
Okay, is everybody ready? So this is gonna be our presentation. There's a couple of additional documents I've also emailed those to you that we will be going through. So for the reopener of the current award, which is a collective bargaining agreement that was awarded, we had an issue or some questions, rather, on how to implement the 2 additional Kelly days that the award calls for. Under Article 14, Section 1 of Appendix A to the September 8th, 2023 arbitration award between the City of Austin and AFA Local 975, the award states, during the last 30 days of the term of this agreement, or fire chief's discretion, the shift schedule shall be modified to include 2 additional Kelly shifts per year. And just for placing the timetable on that, the current award expires on September 30th of 2025. So the last 30 days would be the month of September, starting September 1. In the reopener, on our ground rules, we agreed to what the scope of the reopener was. The parties agreed that the reopener was limited to the negotiation for the additional particulars and details, including the effect on other provisions of the contract as required to implement the additional 2 Kelly days. During that reopener process, we had our first public session to start that reopener negotiation on June 16, 2025. And during that public session, we determined that we were going to establish and agree to establish a subcommittee to explore the options and the many details and nuances that went into implementing 2 additional Kelly days. We had several subcommittee meetings where we met, where we either met in person, by teams, or had conferences in order to obtain information, talk about issues, and bring ideas to the table, and discuss specific options that were brought. Those subcommittee meetings were held on June 17th, June 18th, June 24th, June 26th, and July 14th. We did have a public meeting scheduled for July 16th, but that was canceled, and here we are today at our second public session on July 30th, 2025. Pursuant to our transparency ordinance and the ground rules, one of the deals of the subcommittee is that the subcommittee, we had to report what was discussed in the subcommittee, and the items, the work that the subcommittee did in the open meeting, which is today. And I'm providing that from our perspective on what happened and what the work that we did. So from the city's perspective, the issues discussed related to the Kelly Day implementation included these items and these subject areas. The reduction of the work week, specifically because the award was not explicit, but the 2 additional Kelly days resulted in a 1-hour reduction in the work week from a 53-hour work week to a 52-hour work week. The pay scales. The award only had a pay scale for a 53-hour work week and did not account for a pay scale for the reduced 52-hour work week. So we wanted to make sure that we paid everybody right. And we wanted to answer that question. Leave accruals. The award also only had accruals, maximums, and leave payouts for a 53-hour work week. And we needed to know what would those be for a 52-hour work week, which is the result of the 1-hour work week reduction. We also discussed staffing regarding the backfill that's required in order to fill those 2 additional Kelly days and make sure people are on shift for those additional days. The schedule for the city, the award provides the chief determines the work period, shift schedule, and how additional Kelly days are implemented. We also discussed the FLSA overtime threshold. The award states that the overtime applicable FLSA overtime threshold shall be used to calculate overtime eligibility. We also discussed the cost of staffing and the cost of overtime. And although it's not outlined here, we also discussed the cost of related to administrative costs that may be related to changing certain models. In the subcommittee, the city provided an option. It first emailed an option on July 9th and had some discussions amongst its team and amongst the subcommittee. And when we met back, I believe on July 14th, we provided a clarified, I guess, a clarification to the proposal. And the city's option to implement the 2 additional Kelly days provided this. It provided compliance with the award and the CDA provisions in it as a whole. It added 2 additional scheduled Kelly days to the current work period and shift schedule. Current work period is a 19-day work period, and the current shift schedule is a 24/48 model with a 19-day shift Kelly day cycle. It reduced the work week by 1 hour from 53-hour work week to a 52-hour work week, even though it was not explicit. That's the result. We all agreed that that's the result of adding the 2 additional Kelly days. The city's option also provided for a new pay scale for the 52-hour work week. From the city's perspective, we wanted to keep the annualized payout the same, which resulted in the increase of the hourly rate. That increase was a 1.92% increase in the hourly rate. And because of the increase in the hourly rate, that new increased hourly rate will be used for calculating overtime pay across the board. And the pay scale is, in the proposal, the pay scale was to take effect, I believe in September, with that first pay period being approximately September 7th, something like that. The city's option also provided that we maintain the number of hours worked to be eligible for overtime, meaning we maintain the FLSA overtime threshold as stated in the contract. We also maintain the same leave accruals maximums and payouts, meaning that you still get the same accruals for the less hours worked. We kept it for the same that you would have had for a 53-hour work week, but now for a 52-hour work week. We also discussed the cost of staffing, overtime, and making changes to the payroll system. And those were the administrative costs that I referred to earlier. We also discussed the AFA's option. When I say the AFA is your option. The AFA option to implement the 2 additional Kelly days. The AFA options included discussion about reducing the work week by an additional 0.3 work week reduction, resulting in an additional Kelly day for a total of not 2, but 3 additional Kelly days, and resulting in a 51.7 hour work week rather than a 52. We did discuss in that option that AFA was willing to do that beginning in January 2026, meaning that it would delay the implementation. Part of that option also discussed increase in the hourly rate resulting in the same annualized pay, but because of the additional work week reduction, a 51.7 hour work week results in a 2.51% increase in the hourly rate. That also means that the increased hourly rate would be used for calculating overtime across the board. The AFA option also discussed reducing the number of hours worked to be eligible for overtime, meaning lowering the FLSA overtime threshold and doing something different that would be award calls to work. The AFA option also discussed maintaining the same leave accrual maximums of payouts for less hours worked, the specific shift schedule and work periods. Some options we discussed had some built-in overtime that we discussed. And we also discussed steps to move to a Portland schedule, which is a 1-3-2-3 schedule. And we discussed the Portland schedule. In fact, we even had conferences with the union and the captain from the city of Portland in order to figure out details and learn more about the Portland schedule. The AFA option also discussed the removal of the pay coverage. We have not had any subcommittee meetings, and from our perspective, the result is that there was no recommendation for the subcommittee. The city's options that were provided comply with all the contract provisions and resolve all the unanswered questions to the firefighters' favor. That being the questions that are outstanding in the contract. What do we pay somebody for a 52-hour work week? What kind of pay scale do we use? And what kind of leave accrual do we use? What we did was we answered those questions favorably to the firefighters, meaning that we left the same annualized payout but increased the hourly rate. And in addition to that, the increase of the hourly rate will be used to calculate all overtime across the board. The AFA's options went beyond what was needed to comply with the contract and beyond the favorable resolutions that the city did provide. And those were to reduce the work week even more by 0.3 and to lower the overtime threshold more than what the contract called for. And And both, even though they left the, pay scales, the hourly rate would go up, the pay scales, or the annualized rate would stay the same. Something else, let me look at that. Oh, and one of the other things that the AFA's options also did was ask for specific schedules, rather than working with the chief and determining for the chief, how the chief was going to implement the 2 additional Kelly days. We just want to make clear, in this reopener, it has always been the city's full intention to implement the 2 additional Kelly days and be in compliance with the contract. We just needed some of those questions that were unanswered, and those being the pay scales and the leave rules. We did discuss, like I laid out earlier, a lot of other factors that may have an effect, may not have an effect, but we discussed them and we considered them. The purpose of the reopening was to try to reach a mutually agreeable resolution to some limited unresolved issues resulting from the requirement to implement the 2 additional Kelly days. The purpose was not to negotiate new or additional terms of the current award that are not necessarily affected. Specifically, the 2 additional Kelly days resulted in an average work week reduction of 1 hour, bringing the average work week from 53 hours to 52 hours. The current award only has a pay table and leave accruals for a 53-hour work week and not a 52-hour work week. So what we're doing today is presenting formally the city's proposal for implementation of the 2 Kelly days in compliance with the contract. And our proposal complies with all the contract provisions and answers to the 2 questions. The proposal for the Kelly Day implementation is 2 additional Kelly days that are scheduled. It would be 2 additional mandatory Kelly days off. Kelly days are an unpaid shift off in order to give the firefighter time off from his work schedule, or his or her work schedule rather. And the 2 additional Kelly days would be scheduled using a process similar to that used to schedule vacation. And the reason that we're considering that process is because it is something that has already been agreed to and seems to work for scheduling that type of leave. And so we would use that similar process. We anticipate the process beginning September 1 with hopefully if we can make it work with the implementation of that Kelly Day happening, the 2 additional Kelly days starting that first pay period as soon as we can. And we do intend for the pay scale to start that September 1 as well. On top of the additional Kelly Day schedule, it maintains the current Kelly Day cycle. What it does is it maintains what the firefighters are doing right now, the 19-day work period. It maintains the currently already scheduled 6 to 7 Kelly days using the same 19 shift cycle. And it maintains the FLSA threshold of 144 hours pursuant to the award. And in my presentation, I cited the specific provision of the award, which is Article 15, Section 1A. And that basically says that all overtime will be calculated using an applicable overtime threshold prescribed by the Federal Labor Standards Act, FLSA. The city's proposal for the Kelly Day implementation resolves all the unanswered questions to the firefighter defendant. Post-implementation of the 2 additional Kelly days complies with all the contract provisions, including maintaining the FLSA overtime threshold by which overtime will be calculated, and the fire chief's management right to determine how to implement the 2 additional Kelly days. The proposed implementation also resolves the pay table and leave accruals maximums of payout for a 52-hour work week in favor of the firefighters. We're not taking anything away. Even though it is not explicit in the award, the city's option maintains the same annualized payout despite a reduced work week, resulting in a 1.92 increase in the hourly rate. Overtime across the board will not be calculated at the increased hourly rate. The city subcommittee option also leaves in place the current leave accrual rates, maximum payouts despite the reduced 52-hour work week. The city subcommittee option, does not take away any existing CBA award benefit, and we're presenting that proposal here today formally. The estimated cost for the implementation of the 2 additional utilities pursuant to the city's proposed implementation is right above $2.5 million. What this accounts for is the backfill that would be needed in order to fill those positions that are now going to be two additional tele days. It would be an additional 48 hours away. It would be an additional 48 hours away for total hours that needed to be backfilled of 50,356.80 hours. The average overtime rate is 48.72, but taking into account that the increase in the hourly rate is now increased by 1.1%, that the overtime hourly rate is now calculated at the 49.66 number. The cost for the 2 shifts is at right about $2.5 million, but when you add the Medicaid factor in there that needs to be paid, the estimated cost for the 2 additional 24-hour tele days is $2,536,745.33. One of the things that I would like to point out in this cost is that we're not, when we're looking at this, there are also additional costs that we're not saying, hey, these are things that we're going to go ahead and absorb. And the cost that we're absorbing is the now new overtime calculation at that higher hourly rate, and any kind of administrative cost that we would have in order to implement this. And one of the things that we're doing is trying to minimize the cost of what we're doing, and so that's why we're using our current schedule and our current shift cycle in order to implement these 2 tele days, because the AFA has indicated that 2 of the major items that they're looking for as we go into these new collective bargaining negotiations is a further reduced work week. Obviously, we have been talking about specific other shift schedules, which we anticipate you will bring to the table and we will discuss. And any other changes that we may have to do to our current system. And just for the edification of the public that may be listening, when we make changes to our system with regard to either shift cycles or work periods, it requires programming, which includes hiring a consultant, taking those expenses, doing formulas, doing the programming, going through testing, and having a long period of time to make sure that all of these things work. And I'm not the expert at this, but we did discuss all this. We did have people from our comptroller's office come in and explain how that process works. And then an estimated expense. You know, we really don't know what the expense is until you do it, but it is a significant expense. So one of the things that we're trying to do is we're implementing these 2 tele days is to take into consideration that there may be a change that results from the new negotiations, from the new contract. And we want to be able to just do that change all at once we resolve all those issues and we come up with a new contract. With our proposal, we have created the new pay scales for the 52-hour work week, and it reflects a 1.92 increase in the hourly rates. I do have the pay scales, but I did not include them in this presentation. I sent them separately because it's very hard to see. So I went ahead and I printed several copies, and Devin is going to be passing them out so that you can look at them. And if you have any questions, we can answer those. These pay scales will be available. I emailed them to you, and they are part of the negotiation documents. So even though I'm not sharing them up on the live stream, they will be available. Did everyone get a copy? And the document I passed out has the outlined city proposed LED implementation that I just went over. It also includes, a sheet that reflects the cost that we just went over. And then it includes the, 53-hour work week pay scale that is currently in the board, and the new 52-hour work week pay scale that reflects the 1.92% increase in the hourly rate. That is the conclusion of what what we have from the city side with regard to the reopener. But I want to go ahead and just be efficient about this and move on so that we can just take all of the issues and deal with them at the same time. I've already sent them to you, and then you can respond to them. Depending on, depending on the response to the city's, proposal. Sorry. Depending on the response to the city's proposal, we're prepared. We're prepared to, take your questions, respond to questions, listen to what the AFA had to say about our proposal. But I think as we're moving forward, we're also opening the negotiations for the new contract. And so I just wanted to go over that as well. This is an entirely new bargaining session, has nothing to do with the reopener. What we're doing today is initiating the negotiations for a new collective bargaining agreement under, chapter 174 of the Texas Local Government Code, and we're all here in good faith to do that. The 60-day statutory bargaining period starts today and ends approximately, September 28th, I believe, by my calculation. You may have to check me on that. And it may be extended by mutual agreement in 15-day increments. As we move forward into the process of how we're going to negotiate the new collective bargaining agreement, I have emailed you some ground rules. And I will go ahead and go over those now. Stop sharing. Bring up the ground rules. And for those in the documents that I sent you, make sure. Excuse. Okay, and these ground rules are similar to what we have utilized before. It incorporates a lot of the same provisions that we utilized for the reopener. It goes a little bit into more detail because it is a new bargaining session specifically under the rules of Chapter 174 of the Texas Local Government Code. We go over that the purpose of the negotiating of the successor agreement is to bargain a new collective bargaining agreement, and the principal parties are the City of Austin and the Austin Firefighters Association Local 975, which I refer to as the AFA. The ground rules we propose follow the good faith requirement under 174. Each party agrees to negotiate in good faith with a person or persons designated to negotiate or bargain on its behalf pursuant to 174.106 of the Texas Local Government Code. The negotiating team. Each negotiating team shall consist of no more than 9 members empowered to make decisions for their consultants. A quorum of the city team shall be 5 members. A quorum of the association team shall be 5 members. Only the negotiating team members can participate in the negotiation discussions. A reasonable number of resource people shall be permitted, but shall not participate in the discussions. Neither party shall bargain with the other side's principal, member, or representative thereof outside of the negotiating session. However, it is understood that a casual conversation as opposed to an effort to negotiate by bypassing the other side's team is not a violation. Negotiating team members delegate full authority to the remaining team members in the event of their absence. On reasonable advance notice, either party may permanently replace a member of its negotiating team for a legitimate purpose for which will include but not be limited to illness, death, resignation of employment, and similar reasons. The parties may establish various subcommittees for issue development or other research-related projects to facilitate the effective negotiation by the negotiating teams. The established subcommittee shall provide an advisory report to the negotiation teams at a public negotiation session. Again, that is to remain in compliance with the City Council's resolution number 2025-0227-029. With regard to the process, the parties agreed to a 60-day negotiation period beginning on today, July 30th, and the parties may agree to additional time beyond that 60-day period. As discussed, the law allows us to do 50-day increments of extensions. We have proposed that the parties agree cutoff date for new issues be August 29th, 2025. That's in the middle of a 60-day bargaining period that allows 30 days to bring in the new issues and then 30 days to go ahead to bargain and further discuss those. We propose that both parties agree to utilize an interface or problem-solving approach wherever it has the potential to facilitate solutions on difficult issues. The parties agree to focus on issues, not personalities, focus on interests rather than positions, and make decisions by consensus when possible. Every effort will be made to promptly agree on acceptable existing contract articles and to resolve minor language changes. All negotiations will be compliant with the city laws and resolution number 2025-02-2029, which is the transparency resolution, and the Texas Local Government Code 174.108, meaning that all negotiations will be held exclusively in publicly recorded and broadcast meetings that are accessible to the public. In addition to that, any documents that are being exchanged and presented at the negotiation table during our public sessions will also be made publicly available on the City of Austin Labor Relations Office website pursuant to that transparency resolution. In the event that the parties reach consensus on draft language, the parties expressly acknowledge the draft language becomes final only if the agreement is reached on the content of the entire collective bargaining agreement, subject to ratification and approval. The provision does not prevent the implementation of any permissible item prior to the ratification of the final agreement by mutual agreement of the parties. It's specifically the intent of both parties that a tentative agreement of apparent consensus shall not be used to show that an issue is not in dispute for purposes of arbitration. Members of each team and their attorneys are free to take notes on the negotiation session. However, the official record of the negotiation sessions will be the recording. If at all or a portion of the negotiation session is not recorded due to the equipment malfunction or some other similar reason, the parties agree to promptly meet and compare notes for purposes of preparing an agreed summary of what occurred during the bargaining session. The rule does not prevent the association from video or audio recording bargaining sessions at its own expense. However, cybersecurity purposes at no time will city equipment be connected to or through non-city approved equipment. On the scheduling, we're working on the schedule on our part, and we will be talking to you about this. We would like to establish an efficient schedule, seeing as how we have 60 days to bargain. The parties will establish a schedule for each month in advance, allocating the necessary time for the issues on the table. Both parties agree to work towards a prompt and efficient process while recognizing the complexity and difficulty of some issues involved in the process. We pledge to complete an agreement as soon as possible. Parties will work together to determine appropriate length of meetings and will be considerate of the other team with regard to the time spent in caucus. If a contract is not agreed to by September 28, 2025, that's the end of the 60-day bargaining period. The parties may, but neither is required to agree to 15-day extensions of bargaining as provided by Chapter 174 of the Texas Local Government Code. It is expected that all team members will remain in attendance through 5 p.m. or conclusion of the negotiation session. However, the absence of negotiating team members will not prevent the continuation of the negotiating session or conclude the discussion of any topic. We have some typical provisions on information and data pairing. One of the important ones, I think, is number 21, that each team shall designate a single contact person for information requests, so that we can make sure that nothing falls through the crack, and we have one person on each team managing sheet and making sure that the information is being shared. Both parties will also endeavor to provide copies of all the economic data in comparison to the other side prior to the negotiation session that will include discussion related to that data. Copies of such data will be provided no later than the time that those issues shall be discussed or will be discussed. On the press and media inquiries, neither party will make a unilateral press release, hold any press conferences in any form, or issue any other public statement about the negotiation process itself, except as provided in this section. In the event that either party determines that there is a need to respond or explain an issue to the public, the press, or social media, they shall notify the other party, and the party shall attempt to use a joint approach that maintains an effective relationship at the bargaining table. Nothing in these grounds will restrict either party from inviting the press to attend the negotiation sessions and to observe, report, and comment on the sessions as they are conducted. Provided, however, that the intent of this rule is to contain the negotiation of all issues within the context of the bargaining teams at the table and not an outside forum during the negotiations themselves. That's in line with the duty to bargain in good faith. In the event of an impasse, the parties agree they'll provide notice to the other party prior to any public announcement declaring impasse. If the parties declare impasse in the negotiating process, press releases and statements to the media may at that time be unilaterally released by either party. There's a couple of miscellaneous provisions, the ground rules.
To interject, because I'm just reading this text from Sarah. She points out this September 28th is a Sunday. So we may want to consider designating essay as the Monday.
Okay. Oh, we can discuss that. It can either be the Friday or the Monday. On the miscellaneous provisions, the ground rules being subject of the agreement between the parties may be modified by agreement at any time during these negotiations to serve the interests of the bargaining process. Provided, however, that any modifications to the ground rules must be in writing and signed by both parties. Each party reserves their statutory and legal rights with respect to the bargaining process, impasse resolution procedures, and binding interest arbitration. Violation of these ground rules will be considered a violation of the requirements as prescribed by case law, court precedent, and the NLRB guidance of the parties to lawfully bargain in good faith. Upon written notice by either party that a member, representative, or party acting on behalf of one or all of the bargaining teams has acted in a manner which would be considered a violation of these ground rules, the negotiation team will have the opportunity to correct the violation within 5 calendar days of such notice if such violation is curable. And these are our proposed, or to be, proposed to be signed by me as the lead negotiator. And we have Bob Nix as the association president, but whoever is the proper authority to sign on behalf of the AFA. Let me just look at my notes one more time. I have shared all the documents. I have reshared the transparency resolution with your team. I don't believe I need to present it now. It is available on the LRO website and the reopener negotiations, and we will be posting that one as well. If you need any reference, and I can provide you needed. But I did include it in your email. That is the presentation that we have from the city this morning, and I yield to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
My name's Ron Ward. We're gonna take just 15 minutes, and just so we get our response ready, we appreciate the documents, and we will.
Is this screen?
Got the brief, and I'm not
Yeah,
talking.
we're here. It's good.
Houston, the producer, right?
Sound man.
Sound man, a million followers. So, all right, we'll take 15 minutes. We're just get organized. We'll come back, and then we can discuss soon discuss dates and do that. I don't know that we have plans for subsidy talks today, but we'll get organized, get ready. We're doing our remarks, and I think everybody knows what's in play. We'll make our, and we'll speak to the real, we'll speak to the, what we're gonna talk about. But
I was just gonna thank you for that. That makes perfect sense. And we appreciate y'all's patience listening to. So we laid it out, now y'all can approach it a little bit, look forward to response.
yeah, we'll be very, we've got it ready, just need to make sure. All right, thank you. We'll be back. Yeah, he's, retired, very slow moving.
Are we on the record? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We, do a couple of things. Gonna, have a little, just kind of a clarification and questions in regards to the reopener. And we have a little PowerPoint kind of lays out some of the baselines of what we're going to be talking about at the end of the future. And then I'll close up. Nothing jumped out at me, but I would say we can shorten the 60 days. I'm not sure we can lengthen it, so it's probably have to be Friday. We might be tired. Without ratification, I guess we can amend the statute, but I'm okay with that. And then we'll be prepared to decide on some dates, or at least for August.
Association representative. Wanted to confirm any opinions about which was any very collaborative nature of those sessions. That they would intended to better dive into.
See, that's all.
There we go.
To better define some of the more sophisticated elements of, let's say, work periods, fellowship cycles, and work schedules. But we do think that it's important to clarify the record that over the first several sessions, and we can reference the dates, but I don't know that it's necessary, the AFA presented a range of options in a very open brainstorming type approach. But we gave two primary proposals. And one of the primary proposal was not an expansion of the current board, but the second one was an expansion, as you characterized it, with the additional 0.3 that we acknowledged may trigger some concessions, and you specifically referenced it, one of which would be a willingness to delay the implementation of the board. So, what we want to put on record is that our base proposal, which was not included in the PowerPoint, 4 essential elements. 2 of them we're in agreement on, and you included in your PowerPoint. That's that the hourly rate increases and that the accruals remain as is. Number 2, we don't share the same interpretation. And so specifically, the one that references the added time threshold. So it's the AFA's position that keeping the FLSA threshold of 53 is inconsistent with our past practice of having an overtime threshold that aligns with our defined work week, and that it's inconsistent with how the overtime threshold is viewed and administered city of Austin employees and other public safety counterparts. So we just wanted to be on record for that. Fourth element that share the same interpretation of is how the 2 additional Kelly days would be incorporated. And so the city has proposed that they would be floating Kellys. And the AFA is not in agreement with this for a few reasons. One of which is that the vacation-like Kelly shift concept was aggressively rejected by the membership and repeatedly communicated in comprehensive joint labor management workweek reduction sessions throughout. Secondly, a floating Kelly shift is inconsistent with our organizational past practice and would have layers of complications and potential negative impacts on other aspects of scheduled leave, payroll processes and pay, and staffing selection procedures. And then lastly, is our interpretation that this methodology is inconsistent with the longstanding language in the CBA that outlines how work weeks are created
by the sequencing of regular work shifts and a concluding tele shift. Most specifically, Article 14, Section 1 states that a work week shall be accomplished by scheduling 18 24-hour regular shifts and one 24-hour tele shift. So it's our interpretation that the contract kind of outlines the process by which Kellys are created and
One microphone seems, it may be breaking, I just, if you want to use, that one may not, so just.
okay. So in summary, two proposals were presented throughout the subcommittees. One of which was an expansion. And the two essential elements that we're not seeing the same as the city is that our overtime threshold should remain in alignment with our work week as it always has. And secondly, that a more consistent application of the 2 additional Kelly days would be transitioning to a 14-shift Kelly cycle.
Do you have any questions or just respond?
Move on.
Um,
I don't have any questions.
Let me get to one.
I'm Barry Gomez, AFA member, tenant, fire department, station 20. What I'd like to do, I think we got pretty clear about what our priorities are in this bargaining session. Like what wages, final work reproduction, all that might not be aware of some of this stuff. So what I'd like to do is just a general overview, what priorities are, this upcoming bargaining session. Kind of also a quick view of it. I'm sure we'll get into a lot of specifics later on, or you the nitty-gritty of it. Just have to give people interested in this. Overall discussion. Did you figure out how to make yours full screen?
My computer, I'm sure it's gonna pop up.
I had to wind up my screen, my whole screen in order to make it.
Yeah, but you never got full screen on the drop.
No, I got a full screen. Oh, to pop it out.
So about. It's just like you said earlier this morning.
Yeah.
Technology works every day.
Yeah.
But everything. Say we can't display your shared content, make sure that you allow permission to share content and try it. Have somebody that can approve them.
It's been hard.
You can make that happen.
Content, sure, as it did before. I'm reading, let me see if that. There's sometimes a.
I was able to present her earlier, I don't know if that's why. It sounds like that's the right way. Just need to be verified.
No, I'm in favor.
Oh, you're unverified.
Says.
Yeah, ours was saying it used to be 5.
It was shared earlier,
But you never had the whole movie screen.
I know,
You
but
still had your little picture, your whole screen on your computer. And it wasn't the whole picture on the wall.
Right.
It's supposed,
right, we'll figure out.
this is supposed to be like MGM, you know, with the line. Rah.
What's the noise that makes the babies on the?
I can speaking, go back in, it's like that was all the issue. Share screen.
Town administrator, president there. Good. So our marketing overview.
You can send that to us later, bro.
Yes. Since 2013, firefighters have experienced greater losses in purchasing power than public safety counterparts and city of Austin employees. With the contract, they will be seeking to close the gap on cost of living and the inequities between the other city of Austin employees. Workload is rapidly increasing, leaving firefighters having insufficient time to rest and recuperate. As a result, AFT has experienced a strong trend of declining firefighter mental health. AFA is seeking to reduce the work week 2 hours to 50.4 hours per week in an effort to balance the increased workload and needed time off to effectively recover. So the slide right here is a comparison of the city of Austin employee groups since 2013. Yes. Let me get it. So you have civilians, police, you have fire, you have EMS, you have CPIW, widely used as a cost of living indicator. Comparison between employee groups as well as cost of living. If you go down here to the bottom, or circle fire, you see that over the course of the 13 years, fire has been given 26.37% compounded raise. During the same period of time, civilians were given 42.58%. And I'm well aware that this is for civilians and fire, EMS, police. I do feel to illustrate the point that the city has kept civilians up for the cost of living. And then you go over and look, EMS has been given 34.68% raises during the same period of time. CPI has risen 38%. So Austin firefighters, as we stand, 10.69% behind the cost of living. Anybody hired around that time experiencing 12% loss of wages, real wages, being hired. Charles County EMS had 8.31% higher raises. AFD has, and APD has had 2% higher raises. I think they suffered some of the same disinvestment from the city that the fire department has. But the city identified this problem. They took care of it and invested during their last contract. They're set to receive, they just received 8%. Set to receive 6%, 5%, 5%, 4% raises over the next 4 years. This is kind of a representation of that data, but it also takes the raises that EMS and police have scheduled, the assumed rate of CPI, and carries them forward up to fiscal year 2020. So this top line here, this purple line, CPIW. We come down here and the green line is EMS, the blue line is PD, and the red line is fire. As you see all the way up until about 2021, everybody's pretty the same. Cost of living starts going up 2020. The city realizes, hey, we're not competitive in the EMS anymore. And so they give them a raise to start bringing them back up towards their cost of living. This is in addition to getting 6-hour work during the same period of time. Then you come down here, right, PD. Kind of stopped for a bit. City decided they're gonna invest in police, and you see them, they're gonna eventually catch up. The cost of living. The fire department has a little fight, I think it's worth pointing out that that is on the arbitration. On the arbitration, they got us that 4%. That was spiked up there. Only for the last bargaining session, with no better than 2% a year offer, so we were still been flat. So we've got some ground to make up, and we're gonna get a cost of living. What happened in Austin is wages during this time, the hourly average wages increased from 25.49 to 35.94, which is a 41% increase since 2013. During the same time that Austin firefighters received a 26.37%. Firefighters work longer hours. Austin Travis County EMS works a 42-hour work week. In 2023, they completed their 6-hour work week reduction, moving them from 48 hours down to 42 hours. APD works 40 hours per week, and currently the Austin Fire Department is working 50. The AFD works 26% more hours than Austin Travis County EMS, 32% more than APD. Now, APD will be moving to a 52-hour work week, as we just discussed earlier in these sessions. Some changes slightly. APD will now work 24% more hours than EMS and 30% more hours than APD. There's been an increase in work. 2013, there was 101,825 unit responses, and in 2024, there's 152,834 unit responses. For an additional 51,000 responses per year. Well, barely increasing our units, because we're 12% increase in units. Firefighters do more than just respond to emergencies. That's all say when we contemplated this 53-hour work week. The departments were largely pretty safe. They brought along the call. They were in fires. They were in maybe vehicle. They certainly don't have the robust 60 call types that we are currently responding to. And they don't have all the extra duty. A lot of firefighters provide a lot of value-added services to citizens and to the city in between calls. Building inspections, hydrant maintenance, used to be done by Austin Water Utility. They used to have to pay additional employees to go out and maintain these hydrants. And now Austin Fire Department took it over, do that, save the city money, and have to hire people to do it. Public education events, standby flow tests, pre-fire plans, home hazard inspections, smoke detector installs, hydrant flow tests, lawn maintenance. We are the only agency in the city that does their own lawn maintenance, right? That saves an immense amount of money. I don't have the number on me, but I know it was put out for bid recently, decided it was astronomically expensive, and I think we're continuing to grow a lot. Station maintenance, education class and professional development training. We spend a lot of time training so we're proficient when we show up on scene. We can help the citizens the way that relatively increased workload has mental health. I think the city realized that with Austin Travis County EMS, and rightfully so, they reduced their 6 hours to help their mental health and health. Austin Fire Department has experienced 5 suicides in recent years, along with several unsuccessful suicide attempts. We have a steady stream of people visiting the Center for Excellence of Maryland, which is a firefighter-specific inpatient facility. Staff psychologist is booked on the clock. Our peer support people are working around the clock. It's becoming a real issue. There's been attempts to address it. We know that increased workload and insufficient recovery time can aggravate mental health. Interrupted sleep schedules, excessive workloads, all increased depression, suicidal ideations. Right? On top of that, giving firefighters the lowest pay raises of any city employee for the last 15 years only hurts firefighter mental health and morale even further. There's a study after study that showed that people that feel undervalued, their peers or other employee groups, and are overworked, and suffer those same mental health effects. Florida understands this. If you look at Florida, I think they're the most labor-friendly state in the United States. But they recently, this legislation, House Bill, Senate Bill 929, that focuses on firefighter mental health. One of the things it does It recommends fire departments limit the standard firefighter shifts to 42 hours per week. That's not a big thing. What it does is it sets the standard for what should be done. There's a realization that 53-hour work week that was set 40 years ago doesn't match what our firefighters need to be doing to take care of employees. So Palm Beach County, Florida, they were already working a 48-hour work week. They're dropping down to a 42-hour work week in order to aid with Kissimmee Fire Department, Florida, again, dropping 14 hours. In a work, 56 down to 42 hours. Alexander, the fire chief, 6 down to 50. These are not exhaustive examples, right? We have Portland working 54, Seattle working 45, Tacoma working 48, Denver working 48, Houston 46.7, countless. East Coast going 42, Plano and Allen are in the process of trying to go to 24/72s. I don't know if that's a 48 or 42 hour schedule. But it's the way fire departments are trending, realization that the work weeks are excessive for the new work. We're trying to do something.
I think Plano's 1, 3.
48,
Or 72. 48 to 96, I think. Anyway, little numbers and
yeah, no, no.
they had a 10 degree this week or something. I'm actually waiting to see the terms.
Right. So yeah, that's still our last one we're asking. We're looking for 1.6.
May already know this, but the arrangement up there, the firefighters are going to pay for each position.
The salary.
I think they have some.
They freeze. About 2 years and very high. So, on the fire department, how they're recruiting, I don't think anybody would deny that. Maybe we've been sounding the alarm on that for the past couple of hours, except, okay, it's not a nationwide problem. This is their target and they're down. Various other departments. It's become a major problem. I mean, when I joined the department in 2011, there were thousands of people who took the test trying to get on fire. I came through with a guy who worked in Georgetown for 11 years, testing with Austin for 11 years, trying to get on the sympathetic ones. I didn't have several. My entire class, all previous firefighters, 3+ years of experience. The other class on my list was half laterals. Right? People were trying to get Austin to be the premier fire department in the state of Texas. The AFG's last testing process, we saw 667 people show up and take the exam. And with lower standards, about as low as we can get. All the way, pretty much, hey, if you have a pulse and you have a high school degree, because it's 667 people testing, well, might seem like, hey, you're trying to fill 140 spots. That seems pretty good. We couldn't fill a reconnect class, 667 will take the test. But so many people were eliminated or self-selected from the process that we were unable to fully fill it. And the reason, local fire departments are operating better pay, significantly lower workload. The departments are offering better schedules. As Austin firefighters' wages have stagnated, other Texas departments have continued investing in the fire. I think it's difficult for somebody to come into Austin with our wages, median house price, $5 inside of Austin, place they want to work. It's still choosing to work in these other departments, trying to be Fort Worth here, which I think later in this marketing session, we'll be told we're much higher paid than, and much more desirable departments. Posted that they had 1,500 people show up to take their test. San Antonio Fire, significantly more desirable than 1,100. Their elections. Again, we ended up gets tested. We ended up with 667. And so the city has invested heavily in EMS employees to increase their competitiveness in recruiting and retention. The firefighters have received raises below all the other city employees and facing increasing workloads and inadequate. It's time for the city of Austin to invest in their firefighters. AFTEs is 6%, 5%, 5%, 4%. And 1.6 hour work week reduction, return AFT to Texas Department of Corrections. We look forward to speaking with you guys on how we get there.
Any questions today? I'd like to get into the numbers. We have a lot more detail presentation about everything else that we'll do. Any questions?
I have a number of questions, but I'm not smart enough right now to ask them, so I'll ask them the next time that we're together. Thank you. Presentation is impressive, so.
I'm sure. We can figure out a day. But then a couple of things. Yeah, Jerry said. Look at typically trying to figure out over the next 4 years how we're going to close the gap. Oh, here's any question the fire department is in better place. And part of that is history. Part of that is in the last 100, and we appreciate very council has been cooperating. We got a great deal. Officers ratified, council ratified, city came in, worked with EMS to fix their problems, gave them a good contract. So, and we don't accept the position that, oh, well, we've already given all the money to them. This is free and Austin free first responder groups. And I don't think we're trying to get ahead of anyone. We cannot afford to get further behind. And if you don't think it's competitive one, because there's no it's competitive world, everybody's fighting for the same young man or woman who wants to be in the fire service, and the competition is intense. I mean, I just get a few pop-ups on Facebook, and they're all advertising. We offer this new shift. We're now paying this money. We're giving the money faster. And so Austin, what's the premier fire? But they got behind, and now they're working to catch up. Well, our service cannot get further behind. If they run on that, we take their time. They go up in Austin. I don't remember the number of people in the news article. So you want to close out that. We have 4 years work toward it. We're here to bargain over it. Recognize cities have physical challenges, but we understand it. Our goal is to get that gap closed and put the fire service back in a competitive position. The fire department can recruit and retain people, and they won't. If you can get on the Austin Fire Department, you get on the Navy Fire Department, in the state and the Navy, you pass through all of it physically, mentally, background, everything, you're ready. You can take that same person, you can put them into use. Fantasy rate 36% over the life of their contract. So I would just ask, and the world is changing, and the power models in fire service are starting to change. And Lowell's dealing with that in Plano. Allen just moved. Almost every fire department is moving to get their hours away from where they were to a better working model. And we're here to talk about that, what it costs and what it takes to do it. And we'll do some of these scheduling. We first have to hire, and then we got to offer them work schedule that they can't get by going somewhere else. They come here, they'll get good working hours, get good pay and benefits, and this would be their. Yes, that's about it. I want us to be the employer first choice. Always tell people that if you're not the employer first choice, you don't get to pick the top candidate. You pick people further down, not anything wrong with it. pay and opportunities to work in the city that's booming, you want to be the first person to pick. And we want Austin to be able to say, if you come here, we're gonna pick just the best. We're gonna fill those spots. And we think that's doable. I think the union is come prepared to bargain. When the city has done the same, and I hope they treat the same way they did the police and the ambulance. And we get back into the market and we're not so far. Anyway, that's just my general comment.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your presentation. We will have some questions. We're gonna take that back and look through it and, ask the really relevant questions so that we can understand where you're coming from. And the city is here prepared and willing to bargain and reach a new contract. That's why we're here. And I appreciate that, and I look forward to our open deliberations, our creative ideas, all of the issues that are affecting both, your side and our side. And we look forward to having those, big conversations and trying to get to a resolution. And I thank you for your time and all the hard work that you have done in preparing this and being prepared to be here for the table. We're prepared to move forward, and I appreciate that. Okay, so from our side, I think that we want to make sure that you have these through the ground rules. If there's any questions, feel free to call me. I'm the point of contact for our team at this point. And as for information requests, I'm the point of contact as of right now. If any change, I will let you know. I will designate somebody as we move forward, because I know there's going to be a lot of work going on between the two parties. And I guess we can, after we close the meeting, I'm still working on making sure that we have rooms, the technology, availability. Before today, I at least want to come up with at least a proposed schedule that we have for the next month, so that we can have an idea of how we're going to, you know, what we're going to be needing, and we have preparations and things like that. So,
I think we always realize a lot of schedules involve people. I think just general intent would like try to come together every 2 weeks on a day and plug in additional days if we need. So they give everybody a chance to, but we substitute on the paper passing by the next meeting, those questions, things we need or you need. So,
yeah.
like a Wednesday or Thursday, that seems to work better for cities.
Generally, I appreciate that information, because one of the things that we were trying to do was see what we have available to at least meet on a weekly basis, and we can maintain those as backups if we need to add in. But having every 2 weeks would actually make it easier to make sure that I have all the property here, because I do have a lot of heads of departments and other resources here.
Probably that's back to back where we have events, not all the time. So
I'm not sure. I think a lot of audibles could be called. I like it if you want to win. I'm going to pick Thursday and Friday, not 13th and 14th, or you want to work and then get in touch with Christine and Jeremy. That'll be, then if we think we need, there's more this statistics and facts, we can also do back to back, or in the morning, however you wish. And that may clear up quite a bit. Then people have to digest it and go through many departments when you're in, to get cleared. So I'll wait, get with Jeremy, Christine, and I'll give them some dates, you give them some dates, and we'll be ready to go.
Okay, we'll do that. Some of the dates that I were looking at, I think were really Wednesdays, especially those weeks that city council kind of hits those. We have workshops on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So on non-city council days, that'll probably work out. So we're gonna look and assess all of that and make sure we get the benefit and value of all the data that we have for these next 60 days, and we'll be working on that.
That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we adjourned.
Yes, we're adjourned.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.